Right. Before I start saying anything about Donny Cates' books or, anything about that, I just want to preface by saying I have not got a single bad word to say about Donny Cates at all. The man is is an absolute genius when it comes to comic book writing. He's a nice guy, just in general, and yeah, he's the best writer at Marvel at the moment. And my only like gripe is that he may be on too much. He may be taking too much work. But the more books that he gets to write, the more good books there is at Marvel. So, who knows? Without further ado, let's compare Donny Cates' best book with his worst book. So starting off, we have Doctor Strange, which is miles and miles below everything else that Donny Cates has written for Marvel, and just written in general. It's probably one of his weaker books, just because it doesn't really get Doctor Strange. First of all, the first arc doesn't have Doctor Strange as the focal point. The focal point is Loki. Donny Cates writes Loki really well. Which is why I really am excited for his Thor run. That being said, it's a Doctor Strange book, and Doctor Strange isn't the main character in his own book. It does introduce a few interesting plot threads, like the ghost dog, and continuing to develop the supporting cast. How and the ghost dog and all that stuff does come back in Wade's run. However, and this is a big however, the main bulk of the story is just the exact same as what Aaron did, by taking away Doctor Strange's power and taking away his magic and having him to get it back, earn it back. That's kind of the exact same as what Aaron did, and here it's not done quite as well, or it's kind of rushed because they need to bring it into a big event, and the big event wasn't that great because it was kind of like, we'll have the event book that's going to be like 4 issues. Event book's going to be 4 issues, right? And those 4 issues are going to tell the main story, and then the Doctor Strange book is just going to show what Doctor Strange is doing, whilst the event book is about everyone else. Why? And then there's tie-ins to Damnation, like there's a tie-in with Iron Fist, and there's a tie-in with other characters that don't really need it. And the Iron Fist tie-in wasn't, great. And the big problem with Donny Cates' run on Doctor Strange is that the bulk of it was that big event, and then it ended with an issue that wasn't really that great either. The kind of concluding issue was literally just a goodbye between Doctor Strange and one of his supporting cast. I can't remember the name of at the moment, but it was literally just a goodbye between them, and Spider-Man shows up, and he has a little chit chat with Doctor Strange, and Chip Zdarsky comes in like for like a few pages and just tells his own Spider-Man story in the middle of a Doctor Strange book, and it just felt a bit disjointed, a bit. This is a pretty bad final issue. You should probably do a bit better than that, you know. Yeah, but at the end of the day, his Doctor Strange run is not bad, and it is decent when you come to think of this is Donny Cates still at the beginning of his career at Marvel. I don't know if he did many books before that. I don't know if he's going to do many books. I know he's done many books after it, but Doctor Strange, as the first foot forward, it's slightly misstepped. He's tripped a bit, but overall it's all right. It's not terrible. It's not terribly bad. It's just there's not really much depth, and it is in the middle of an event. It's not even in the middle of an event. It's just the whole run was kind of to serve the purpose of an event, and therefore the issues that aren't a part of the event just feel a bit kind of floating in limbo, kind of. And that's where we talk about my personal favourite Donny Cates book. And I think you know what it is if you've been a long time watcher of this channel. It's Venom. Of course it's Venom. Why wouldn't it be Venom? You know, again, I haven't read Thanos. I haven't read Cosmic Ghost Rider or Death of the Inhumans, which I've heard all of those are fantastic books. Also, Thor isn't out at the moment. I have a feeling Thor is going to be a very good book. But out of everything by Donny Cates that I have read, Venom is possibly the best book. It's one of the best books at Marvel right now, and it's possibly my favourite book. And that is saying something, for it being about a character that I don't really like. I'm not really a big fan of Venom as a actual character, and the idea of turning him into an anti-hero, I thought that makes sense. The growth of the character, it makes sense that he's an anti-hero, because he has always been an anti-hero. He's only ever been villainous towards Spider-Man and towards Spider-Man's supporting cast. Everywhere else, he does act very much like he does in this, and the whole point of the last 2 years for Venom, ever since Eddie Brock got his suit back, has been make Venom a full-on anti-hero / superhero and turn him into a more heroic character. There are still, it still is a very anti-hero kind of Punisher-esque book, but it's not like you're following a villain with murderous intent. You're following a very damaged character trying to become a hero, even though he looks a lot like a villain. The whole, like, the best thing about Venom, and the best thing about Donny Cates as what he's been trying to do for the characters that he's worked on after Doctor Strange, is he's always introduced new parts of their lore that is going to be important. So the Inhumans, when he worked on the Inhumans, he introduced this character that was going around and killing the Inhumans. In Guardians of the Galaxy, he introduced this like universal Church of Truth, which became like an intrinsical part of the Guardians lore. In this, he's introduced Null, the god of the symbiotes, and he's brought in a new introduction to the symbiotes, a new origin story for the symbiotes. He's brought in like the idea that Eddie Brock wasn't the first symbiote, and that the Clintar have been on Earth before, and they've like infiltrated other factions, and that they've been around ever since like World War II and World War One, and ever since like Vietnam. And it's planting these seeds of very interesting things, and then you get into Absolute Carnage, which I haven't read yet, but from what I've heard is an amazing event. And that all stems from Donny Cates actually knowing what he's doing, caring about what he's doing, and bringing in lore, bringing in like bits from this established character that you realise hasn't got a lot of depth. If you go back and read like a lot of the other Venom stuff, you'll find Venom's just a big muscly guy who shouts at people and goes, "Oh, I must kill Spider-Man." What Donny Cates is doing with Venom is bringing in some depth, introducing that he's got a son, which, you know, his son thinks that he's his brother, and it's a bit weird. And he talks more about Eddie Brock's childhood, and we learn a lot more about that. It's a very interesting read, and it's a very interesting like dive into, wow, this character has depth. I never thought that this character could have depth. There's a lot of good storytelling being done with this character that I never thought that they could do that with. And that's kind of the most commendable thing about Donny Cates' Venom run, is that they're making you care about a character that is stupid. It's making you care about a character that's origin is a bit dumb, that their whole reason for being a thing is kind of myth, and it's making you care for Venom, who is a character that for so long has been a bit bland and a bit of a dry villain, and now you're turning him into a really cool, really badass anti-hero that is trying to make amends for being a bit bland and stale for a good 30 years. Another thing that I like comparatively with Doctor Strange and this is Doctor Strange had 4 issues, then an event that kind of came out of nowhere. Here, it's every single issue is leading you and pointing you towards, that's our end goal. Our end goal is Absolute Carnage. Absolute Carnage happens, then we get, and then that will continue into next year's Venom event, which will continue into this Venom event, and everything leads up to an end point. Null comes in, but then we find out this Null isn't the actual Null. The actual Null won't be coming in until like several years down the line. But you've got to get past Carnage to get to Null, and the whole Absolute Carnage thing. It's all leading up to that. It's all build up. It's all getting you hype. Like every issue is to get you hype for that big thing that's going to happen in about a year's time, and it's giving you little bits of juice, little bits of details, and then you have the web of Venom, which is coinciding with it, and that's giving you even more juicy details about the main book. And it's not the fact of that's just a side thing that you don't need to read. It's the fact that's a side thing, but it's very intrinsically important, and you should read it, otherwise you won't get what happens in this book. So you have the Vietnam book, the Van Nam, which is a terrible name, terrible title, but it's a great book. It's a great single issue that ties in with the storyline that's currently going on in Donny Cates' book. it's also the fact that there's not really, for a large majority of the time that it leads up to Absolute Carnage, there's not really much action, if any. You have several issues. You have issue 1 to 6, which is dragons coming down to Earth, Venom's got to fight it, Miles Morales comes in, and at the end of issue 6, it seems like, you know, Eddie Brock's worse for wear after his fight against the big dragon demon god thing. And then you've got, like, up to issue 10, possibly, like the final issue that I have of Venom is issue 10, but from issues 7 to 10, it's all just, like, the calm before the storm. It's all plot, it's all build up towards, wow, that's happening. That's a big event. That's going to rock the entire Marvel universe, and it will. And it's not like, you know, one of those clickbaity titles where it's like, this will affect the whole universe, the Marvel universe. And at the end of the day, it's like, no, it only affects like one person. It only affects like one person in the Marvel universe. It only affects Captain America, or it only affects Iron Man, or it only affects Captain Marvel, or it only affects the Hulk. Here it will actually affect everyone. It will affect Venom the most, but it will bleed out into, it's going to affect Spider-Man, it's going to affect Miles Morales, it's going to affect all the Spider characters, it's gonna affect, like, all of the Avengers, because you've got even characters like The Thing are being involved in Absolute Carnage. So yeah, just wow. It's just a book. It's just perfect. It's a perfect book. It's a perfect book for a character that no one really cared about until, like, you know, Donny Cates started writing him. So yeah, those are the worst and the best books by Donny Cates, in my opinion. If you don't agree with my opinion, put down in the comments why you don't agree with my opinion. We'll have a civil discourse about it, and I'll eventually come out and say I'm right. I'm right. No, I'm not going to be like that. Your opinion is probably much greater than mine, because you probably read Thanos. You've probably read The Death of the Inhumans. You probably know that there is a definite better book than Venom. But all I'm saying is, out of the books that I have read, Venom is my personal favourite. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with your family and friends. Let's get to 1K by the end of the year, by the turn of 2020. The end of the decade, the start of a new one, and the scariest time for all YouTubers. Bring it on. See you guys in the next video. Peace.